We made plans after class. She wasn't supposed to come. That day he smiled at me like always, right before he walked away with her. The transfer student. The girl who cried and called me cruel. He believed her. He defended her. And he left me again and again, while I stood there choking on trust one should have never given. They took my youth like it was theirs to ruin. But in the end, I just needed to become someone they couldn't touch. Senior year had a routine. Wake at 5:30. Wash, dress, review test notes. Breakfast if time allowed, otherwise just a protein bar tucked into the corner of my bag. I liked it that way. Routine made things easy. Predictable. Comfortable. So when Ryan Carter slid into the desk beside me that Tuesday afternoon and whispered, "Let's go a little crazy this weekend," I stared at him like he'd just suggested we burn down the school. He smiled, the kind of boyish grin that had gotten him out of trouble since the 2nd grade. "Come on, Emily. Let's go watch the sunrise this Saturday. Night hike summit, just the two of us." I blinked. Sunrise? Ryan, it's the holidays. I was planning on catching up on sleep. "Exactly," he said. "Which is why we should be doing something different. Youth is priceless, remember?" That phrase made me pause. Youth is priceless. It wasn't his. I'd heard it before. From her. Isla Bennett. The transfer student with glossy black hair, a bright laugh, and the kind of effortless confidence that turned heads without trying. She was everything we weren't, loud where we were quiet, warm where we were measured. And ever since she joined our class 2 weeks ago, things had started shifting. Isla had been the one to say it first. I remembered hearing it in homeroom. "Youth is priceless," she declared, her voice carrying across the room as she posted a Polaroid of dumplings and city lights to her story. Ryan had been sitting behind her that day, chin resting on his hand, eyes glittering as he listened to her talk. He'd never said those words before. Not until now. So I tried not to read into it. "All right," I said, tucking my pencil into my notebook. "Let's go a little crazy then." His grin widened. "Great. I'll check trail maps tonight. Something scenic but not too steep. Bring that hiking jacket of yours." I smiled. That jacket, light gray with teal stitching, had been a gift from Ryan's grandmother last winter. She said it brought out my eyes. We were still chatting about elevation and weather apps when Isla turned in her seat. "A spontaneous trip?" she said, her tone light. "I'm coming too." Ryan looked up. I braced myself. Then he laughed. "Sure, why not?" My heart stuttered. That night I took the jacket from the back of my closet. It still smelled faintly like his grandmother's mint-scented detergent. I placed it over the edge of my chair. I waited for a confirmation message from Ryan. Maybe something like "can't wait," or even "trail's gonna be epic." But nothing came. Instead, around 11:42 p.m. my phone buzzed. "Ryan, something came up. Saturday's off." I stared at the message. No explanation. Just off. I hesitated, then typed, "Emily, what happened? Do you need help?" No reply. I watched the screen for 5 minutes. The scene didn't appear. The typing bubble never popped up. By midnight I gave up. I folded the jacket again and placed it back in the drawer. Monday came too quickly. I'd barely stepped inside the classroom when I heard the whispering. "Ryan, I can't believe you went. Was it really Wendy's soup dumplings? I keep seeing that place on TikTok. So jealous. Youth really is priceless." I was halfway to my seat when someone said it. "Wait, didn't you say you were going with your childhood sweetheart?" Shut up. She's here." The classroom went still. 20 sets of eyes turned to me. Ryan included. Looked awkward. His fingers were drumming lightly on his desk, his gaze flicking from me to somewhere behind me, then back again. "I didn't see you this morning," he said a bit too casually. I pulled my bag off my shoulder. "I took a shortcut." He frowned. "There's only one road from our neighborhood to school." I didn't answer. He didn't need to know I'd been standing at the front gate at 6:50 a.m., the time we always met. That I'd waited for 10 minutes before a kind security guard finally let me in early. He didn't need to know I'd assumed it was a misunderstanding. That maybe he was sick. That maybe his phone had died. I didn't need to tell him any of it. At my desk I sat down slowly, heart pounding in a strange, uneven rhythm. My desk mate, leaned over. "Didn't he say he was going with you?" she whispered. I didn't answer. Car pulled out her phone and zoomed into a photo. Look. There it was. A 9-photo carousel. The one in the center showed Isla, her head resting lightly on Ryan's shoulder, both of them illuminated by the soft blush of sunrise. Another showed a plate of soup dumplings. Another, the summit with their silhouettes side by side against a purple sky. Caption: Youth has no price. Night hike to the summit. Sunrise. Memories made. Almost everyone had liked the post. Even teachers. Even my cousin. I looked away. I didn't talk much that day. I answered the teacher's questions. I took notes. I ate lunch quickly in the library. By dismissal I felt numb. Ryan and I had always walked home together. It had been an unspoken rule since middle school, even back when we both carried Pokemon backpacks. But I didn't wait for him that day. I walked fast. Shoulders hunched. Earbuds in. I kept thinking maybe he would catch up. Maybe he'd pull up beside me and say I'm sorry. I was stupid. Maybe it would all make sense. But he didn't. And nothing made sense. Back home I sat on the edge of my bed staring at the hiking jacket. We'd picked it out together. I remembered trying it on in the store, turning for the mirror, Ryan nodding with a rare look of approval. That's the one, he'd said. You look like you belong on a magazine cover. I'd laughed, disbelieving. Now it sat crumpled in the drawer. Worn. Unneeded. By midnight I gave up trying to study. I set my physics textbook aside and pulled the blanket over my head like I had when I was little. I scrolled to Ryan's contact. Read the last message again. Something came up. Saturday's off. That was all. No apology. No explanation. No acknowledgement of what we had quietly built between us for years. At 2:11 a.m. I deleted the conversation thread. Then the photos. Then his contact. My phone felt lighter after that. But my chest didn't. By Tuesday morning the whispers had dulled but hadn't died. They hung in the air like stale perfume. Subtle but suffocating. I kept my head down, eyes on my textbook, trying to tune it all out. Equilibrium. I just needed to maintain equilibrium. Then Isla's shoes came into view. White sneakers, the laces tied in neat little bows. She stood beside my desk, beaming like the weekend hadn't split the world in two. I brought you something, she said, placing a small, neatly packaged box in front of me. Wendy's famous soup dumplings. I saved them just for you. My eyes flicked down. The box was still slightly damp from condensation, the lid sealed tightly. I could smell the faint, greasy scent of reheated broth. It was almost comical. I looked back up. Thanks, I said flatly, but I'm good. Her smile faltered. Not much, just a twitch in the corner of her lips. Then she glanced behind her. I didn't need to look to know who was there. Emily. Ryan's voice came from above me. She brought these for you. At least try one. I didn't look up. I said I'm good. She went out of her way, he said, voice tightening. Everyone's watching. Don't make it awkward. So now I was the one making things awkward. I felt the classroom pause around me, that uncomfortable shift in air when people pretend not to be listening but hang on every word. A whisper from the back. What's Emily's problem? Isn't it obvious? Someone else muttered. She's jealous. Didn't she used to be Ryan's little princess? Little princess. The words wrapped around my throat like a wire. Ryan stood there frowning, Isla still pretending to smile. How did it turn into this? Why did I feel like I was on a stage performing someone else's script? I clenched my hands under the desk. Ryan leaned down slightly, voice lower but no less firm. Come on. Don't make a scene. And there it was, the final crack in my patience. I raised my head and locked eyes with him. I'm not the one making a scene, I said, sharp and quiet. Isla stepped forward then, lips still curved, but her voice dripping with mock concern. It's really okay if you don't want them, Emily. I can just give them to Dee. Her dog. The one she always posted about, dressed in bows and hats. She was offering me dog leftovers. In front of the whole class. Are you two done performing yet? I said, my voice rising. Everyone froze. Have I said a single word since walking into this classroom? No. Not one. And yet somehow I'm the problem? You've been baiting me all morning, and for what? To play the victim. Isla blinked. Her smile fell like glass off a shelf. Ryan stepped between us. What the hell, Emily? She was being nice. He snatched the box off my desk. Too quickly. The plastic lid slipped. Thick oily soup splashed out onto the floor. The smell filled the room. Isla gasped softly, hand over her mouth, eyes going glassy. And then, right on cue, she let out a muffled sob and rushed out of the classroom. The door slammed shut behind her. Ryan turned on me. His jaw clenched. "You happy now?" I stared at him. "What?" "She was just trying to do something nice. I didn't go with you, so you made her cry?" His voice was loud enough that even the back row heard. Loud enough to make my skin burn. I looked around. Everyone was watching. Not one person spoke up for me. The teacher entered just then, holding a stack of quizzes. The room straightened into silence like nothing had happened. Ryan clenched his jaw and walked straight out the back door. Neither he nor Isla came back for the rest of class. During the break I stayed behind. I was on classroom duty. Fitting, I thought, as I knelt by the stain on the tile, scrubbing at the patch where broth had dried into sticky residue. My wrist ached. The sponge squeaked. The smell was still lingering, a mixture of cheap vinegar, pork, and humiliation. I scrubbed harder. Behind me the door creaked. I didn't turn. I already knew. Isla's voice came quiet and soft. "Emily." I didn't answer. After a pause, she took a few tentative steps inside. "I didn't mean to hurt you." I still didn't turn around. "I didn't even know you weren't going anymore," she continued. "Ryan only told me we were going once we were already at the base of the mountain. He didn't say anything about you." I set the sponge down and stood up. "So what?" I said slowly. "You're saying you're innocent?" "I'm saying I didn't do anything to you," she said, her voice trembling. "All I wanted was to get along with everyone." There was that tone again. That soft, wide-eyed, poor me tone that turned every confrontation into her sob story. I stared at her. "Have you read too many romance novels?" I asked. "Do you really think you're the poor transfer student being bullied by the jealous ex?" Her mouth opened, then closed. Her eyes turned red. I rolled my sleeves back down and walked past her. "If you're trying to win Best Actress, you're doing great. You've even got the lead male role wrapped around your finger." She didn't follow me out. I hadn't even reached the cafeteria when my phone buzzed. A new message from Ryan. "Don't take it out on her. You didn't want to go hiking, so I asked someone else." What's there to be upset about? I stared at it. The world outside the windows was gray. Rain smudged the sky like a pencil dragged across wet paper. Students ran across the courtyard laughing under umbrellas. I slipped the phone into my pocket. That strange tightness in my chest. It loosened. So that's what we were now. A reschedule. A substitute. A convenience. So much for childhood sweethearts. We always used to walk home together after evening classes. Every single day. From middle school to now. Even when his house was closer, Ryan would insist on walking me to my door first. Then I'd run up to the third floor, throw open my window and call his name just so he'd wave back. He hadn't missed a single day. He'll know. I didn't wait for him this time. I didn't want him to come. I walked quickly, the straps of my bag cutting into my shoulders, the sound of rain growing louder with every step. When I passed by his building, I paused. The lights upstairs were on. I could make out the silhouette of his grandmother moving about in the kitchen, the familiar bent figure I'd grown up seeing more than my own parents. Her warm voice echoed in my memories. "Little Emily, come have dinner at Grandma's house. Ryan's older than you, he'll take care of you." For years he had. But now he was gone. And I wasn't someone worth taking care of anymore. I walked the rest of the way home without looking back. My shoes were soaked. My socks squished. But I didn't slow down. When I reached my building, I peeled the jacket off, tossed it on the floor and went straight to my room. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just lay down, face to the wall and listened to the silence press in. By Wednesday morning I was tired of pretending things were normal. I still showed up early. Still answered the teacher. Still highlighted my notes in alternating colors. But something inside me had turned silent. And yet the world, like always, insisted on being loud. When I walked into the classroom that day, a brightly wrapped box sat on my desk. I frowned. So did half the class, who were already eyeing theirs. Every desk had one. Little desserts wrapped in pale yellow paper and tied with thin satin ribbon. Like wedding favors. Isla stood at the front of the class with her hands clasped, beaming. "I wanted to say thank you for being so welcoming," she said, voice lilting. "It's been hard transferring in late, but I felt so loved. So, I made these for you." I hope you all feel my sincerity. The class clapped. Some smiled. Some shrugged. Most just took the gift. I looked down at mine. A handwritten tag dangled from the ribbon. To Emily, hope we can get along better. Smiley face. Isla. My throat tightened. My deskmate Kara had already opened hers and taken a bite. Emily, you're not eating yours? She asked between chews. It's really good. I picked up the box carefully and placed it on the edge of the desk. You can have it if you're still hungry. Kara blinked. Really? She reached for it, but before her fingers touched the ribbon, Isla was suddenly standing over us. Her eyes wide, voice trembling just enough to draw attention. I just wanted to be friends with you, she said to me, loud enough for nearby students to hear. Is that not allowed? I froze. She pointed at the box. I gave you one of the best cakes and you're just giving it away? Is that a joke to you? Are you trying to embarrass me? Several classmates looked up. Eyes darted between us. My stomach dropped. Here we go again. I started. But it was too late. Kara immediately pulled her hand back, looking like she'd stolen something. Maybe you should just give it back to her. I stood up. Fine. I reached into my bag, pulled out my wallet and took out a 100 rupee note. I held it up to Isla. How much was it? I'll pay you back. Her lips trembled. Her eyes turned glassy on command. Why are you doing this? She whispered. I didn't do anything to you. From the other side of the room someone muttered, this is too much. She's just trying to be nice. Another voice chimed in, yeah, Emily. We're all classmates. It's just cake. I looked at the crowd gathering now. A ring of silence around us. Ryan kicked back his chair and stormed across the room. Enough, he snapped. Is this fun for you? Making her cry in front of everyone. His words hit like a slap. Even my deskmate Kara mumbled. She was just hungry. I think she has low blood sugar. I swallowed the heat rising up my neck. I'm not targeting anyone, I said. This was just a misunderstanding. I'll pay for the cake. That's all. But the damage was done. Isla's lashes were trembling, her cheeks flushed like she was seconds from collapsing. Ryan glared at me like I'd ruined a national holiday. You've changed, he said. The wave hit before I could brace for it. I slammed the box onto the desk, yanked off the ribbon and ripped the lid open. Then I walked over to the trash can and, without a word, dumped the entire thing inside. Silence. A full, crushing silence. I'm tired of the whispering, I said. I'm tired of everyone acting like I'm some jealous witch while she plays the innocent angel. Ryan stared at me stunned. Well, I said, now I am the villain. Happy. I walked out of the classroom before anyone could reply. I didn't know where I was going. I just walked. Down the back hallway. Past the staff room. Toward the empty courtyard where forgotten sports equipment sat rusting in silence. The sun was too bright. It made everything sharp. The sound of distant laughter, the scrape of chalk on pavement, the buzz of my phone in my pocket. I didn't check it. I returned just before the next period, eyes dry but fingers shaking. No one looked at me. Even Kara avoided my gaze. At lunch, I stayed seated while the rest of the class headed to the cafeteria. I picked at my bread roll and forced myself to finish it. I didn't want another lecture about low blood sugar. That's when I saw them. Through the window at the far end of the hallway. Ryan and Isla. Leaning against the railing, laughing. Her hand playfully swatting his arm. His face tilted down, smiling at her like she was the only person in the world. She giggled and said something I couldn't hear. Then she ruffled his hair. He didn't pull away. He leaned into it. That was the moment something broke inside me. Not like a sharp snap. More like the soft, hollow thud of a bone cracking deep under skin. Quiet, irreversible. Later that afternoon I went to the library to return a book. When I stepped into the hallway I spotted them again. This time they weren't laughing. Isla's eyes widened when she saw me. Ryan straightened. For a moment I thought he might walk away. Instead he stepped between us like a shield. What are you doing here? He asked. I go to this school, I said. Same as you. He frowned. I turned to leave but he grabbed my wrist. Don't walk away, he said. Say what you need to say. Isla trailed behind, wringing her hands. Yeah, Emily. Please. Let's just talk. I looked at them. At her dewy eyes. At his tightly clenched jaw. I don't care what's going on between you two, I said, my voice calm. Just leave me out of it. Ryan's voice sharpened. Why are you being so unreasonable? Isla stepped closer. I don't think I've ever done anything to hurt you. I stared at her. Is that your line? I said. Really? She choked on her breath. I just wanted to be your friend. I laughed. Bitter and breathless. I don't like you, I said loudly. And I don't want to be your friend. Is that allowed? Isla's eyes turned glassy again. Why is it that the second you cry I'm automatically the bad guy? If you've got a princess complex, maybe go get it treated at home before you bring it to school. That was when chaos hit. Someone screamed, "Watch out." Before I could register what was happening, a blur flew toward us. A basketball. I saw Ryan's expression shift a second before impact. He turned, shoved Isla behind him. And the ball slammed directly into my forehead. A burst of pain. A flash of white. Then the world spun out of focus. I heard someone scream my name, or maybe it was just an echo. Then everything went dark. When I opened my eyes, everything was too bright. White walls. Soft beeping. Faint antiseptic smell. You're awake, someone said. I turned my head slightly. Ryan. He leaned over the bed, eyes wide, face pale. How do you feel? I opened my mouth, but nausea swelled. I shut my eyes again. I didn't expect that to happen, he muttered. It was so fast. Why didn't you move? I didn't reply. I already called your parents, he added. They're on their way. Don't be scared. I stayed still. After a pause, he went quiet. Then, awkwardly, he said, Emily, do you think maybe we can just let this whole thing go? My eyes fluttered open. What? He looked away. The guy who hit you, it was Isla's godbrother. He already paid the hospital fees. And well, it was an accident. I stared at him. Isla wanted to know if you'd consider not making a big deal out of it. I let out a laugh, dry and humorless. I'm lying in a hospital bed and you're asking me to do her a favor? Ryan flinched. I struggled to sit up. What's wrong with you? Did your brain stop working, or did Isla eat it already? He looked down, speechless. I took a shaky breath. So the only reason you're here is to play mediator? He didn't answer. That silence was answer enough. Get out, I said. Still no movement. I turned away. After a long pause, I heard his phone buzz. He picked it up, whispered, Don't worry. I'll talk to her. Then he stood. I'll go meet your parents, he said. Wait, I said. He stopped. I reached into the drawer and pulled out a small pendant, the Mobius strip necklace he gave me months ago. I held it out. Take this back. And don't come back. He hesitated. Emily. I let it drop onto the floor. The silver clinked softly on the tile. His face changed. Eyes wide. Hurt. Angry. So now you're cutting me off? He snapped. That's seriously immature. He walked out. Didn't look back. I lay back down, closed my eyes and whispered into the silence. That's the point. The ceiling was blinding white. It took me a few seconds to recognize it wasn't the classroom. I wasn't at school. I wasn't anywhere familiar. The fluorescent light above buzzed faintly. Then I heard his voice. You're awake. I turned my head slightly and everything spun. I winced. The sharp pressure behind my eyes pulsed with every heartbeat. Ryan sat in a chair by the bed, leaning forward like he was ready to spring. You're in the hospital, he said quickly. You got hit, at school. Do you remember? I didn't answer. The image came back slowly. The ball. The hallway. Isla's gasp. Ryan's outstretched hand, not for me but for her. The moment I realized I wasn't worth shielding. I called your parents, he said. They're on their way. The doctor said it's a mild concussion. You'll be okay. He looked relieved, but I felt nothing. No warmth, no comfort. Only nausea. And anger. He hesitated again. Then said softly, Do you think, maybe we could let this whole thing go? That snapped me back. What? I asked, voice raspy. Ryan avoided my gaze. The guy who hit you, that was Isla's godbrother. He didn't mean to. It was an accident. I sat up slowly. The pain in my head sharpened like a blade against bone. He already paid the hospital fees, Ryan continued. And Isla wanted to ask if you'd consider not pressing it any further. A laugh escaped me, short, bitter, humorless. I can't even stand on my own yet, I said. And you're here asking me to do Isla a favor? He blinked. It's not like that. Oh no. I shot back. Then what is it like, Ryan? He was silent. The hospital room felt colder. I'm lying here because you chose to protect her instead of me, I said. You didn't even flinch when I got hit. And now you're asking me to pretend none of it matters. His shoulders stiffened. I didn't say it didn't matter. No, you just came here as her spokesperson. He winced. You didn't even check if I was okay before you started negotiating damage control for her, I added. Still he said nothing. So the only reason you're sitting here, I said slowly, is to make sure I stay quiet and don't mess up Isla's perfect little image. The silence between us screamed the truth. Get out, I said. Emily. I said get out. He stood visibly conflicted but didn't argue. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then lowered his voice and muttered, Don't worry. I'll talk to her. Even now, still her. He turned to go. Wait. He stopped. I reached into the drawer by my bedside and pulled out the necklace. The silver Mobius strip he had given me months ago. The one I'd once worn like a promise. No beginning. No end. I held it out. Take this too. His face froze. What are you doing? I don't want it. He didn't reach for it. So I opened my fingers and let it fall. The pendant hit the floor with a soft clink. The sound echoed in the sterile room like a bell ringing the end of something. He looked down at it. His jaw tightened. So now you're cutting me off? That's the idea. He scoffed. You're being immature. I'm being done. With that, I turned my face away. He didn't say another word. The door clicked shut behind him. I was discharged 3 days later. The doctors warned me to rest, to avoid screens, to stay hydrated, to minimize stress. That last part made me laugh internally. Minimize stress. In the final term of senior year? Right. I returned to school the following Monday. I walked into the classroom and felt the air shift. Not quite guilt. Not quite pity. Just discomfort. I didn't care. I walked straight to my seat, dropped my bag and opened my practice test booklet. Within 10 minutes, a classmate walked over. Someone's asking for you outside, she said quietly. I stepped into the hallway and spotted him instantly. School uniform. Lean build. Hair slightly messy, like he hadn't decided if he cared about neatness yet. He looked nervous. You okay? He asked. I blinked. Took me a second to recognize him. Then I remembered, the boy who had thrown the ball. Noah Lynn. Isla's godbrother. The one she always bragged about. I didn't say anything. I'm really sorry, he said, taking a step closer. I didn't mean to hit you. It was stupid. I lost control. I kept my expression blank. I wasn't aiming at anyone, he continued. We were just messing around and I threw it without looking. I glanced down at my shoes. And now you feel guilty. I do. Well, I don't need your guilt, I said flatly. He nodded. Fair. There was a pause. I just wanted to check if you were okay, he added. But I'll go now. You probably have a test or something. I turned without responding and walked back into class. Throughout the day I could feel eyes on me, some sympathetic, others suspicious. Ryan didn't look at me once. Esau pretended I didn't exist. I preferred it that way. But something strange happened after school. I left the building and began my walk home as usual. At the first intersection I heard footsteps behind me. I turned slightly. Noah. He wasn't walking beside me, just a few steps back. Far enough to not be creepy, close enough to notice. I ignored him. At the next turn I stopped at a corner shop to buy a drink. When I came out he was still there. What are you doing? I asked finally. He looked mildly embarrassed. I live nearby. Just heading the same way. I narrowed my eyes. I'm not stalking you or anything, he added quickly. Just making sure you get home okay. It's what you do when you almost give someone a concussion. I didn't answer. At the gate of my apartment complex I paused. Noah did too. We stood in silence for a beat. Then he smiled faintly. See you. He turned and jogged off in the opposite direction. The next afternoon it happened again. After evening classes I walked out alone. And there he was. 3 steps behind. Always at the same distance. Never intrusive. Never talking. Just present. It should have annoyed me. But it didn't. On the third day, I took the longer route home to avoid passing Ryan's building. Noah followed, wordlessly adjusting his pace like he already knew. By the fourth day I stopped turning around. And on the fifth, when I glanced sideways, he offered a small, quiet wave. I didn't wave back. But I didn't hate it. Returning to school after the concussion felt like walking into a play I hadn't rehearsed for. One where everyone else had read the script and decided I was the villain. The stares weren't as loud as before, but they were still there. Lingering. Pause. Some pitying, some judging. Most just confused. No one said it outright, but I could feel it in every conversation that stopped the moment I walked past. In every seat that wasn't taken beside mine. In every smile that didn't reach me. I didn't mind. Not anymore. I buried myself in study guides and mock exams. I arrived early, stayed late, and kept my headphones in whenever I could. It wasn't about proving anything. I just needed to be numb. Problem was, Noah Lynn didn't seem to know how to leave quietly. The first time he approached me again, it was after physics class. I had just returned to my desk when he appeared beside it like a ghost. He held out a small, folded note. I wrote down all the formulas from yesterday's lesson, he said. In case you missed anything. I looked up at him. I didn't ask. I know, he said simply and left it there before walking off. I didn't touch the paper. I didn't read it. But I didn't throw it away either. The second time I was walking home under a gray sky. I heard footsteps again, a little too close, a little too familiar. I glanced behind me. Noah 3 steps back as usual. I told you I don't need you following me, I said without turning. I'm not following, he replied calmly. I live nearby. You always manage to be nearby. My voice was flat. That's not illegal, he said. I rolled my eyes. Look, he continued, jogging slightly to fall into step beside me. I wasn't going to say anything. But for what it's worth, I wasn't trying to cover up what happened. I stopped walking. He did too. What are you talking about? The basketball, he said. The hospital. Ryan told people I asked him to talk to you. I didn't. I didn't even know you were hurt that badly until the teacher told me the next morning. I stared at him. So what? Now you're trying to clear your name? He shook his head. No. Just trying to be honest. The streetlight flickered above us. We stood in silence. Then he smiled awkwardly. You probably hate me anyway, so there's no point pretending. I don't hate you, I said quietly. I just don't care. He nodded. Fair enough. Then just like before, he stepped back 3 paces and resumed walking behind me. That night I found the note he'd left me. It was written in tiny, careful handwriting. Not just formulas. He had broken down each one with diagrams, simple examples, and side notes. I didn't want to admit it, but it helped. I aced the quiz the next day. Ryan, on the other hand, had started unraveling. He showed up late to homeroom 2 days in a row. Missed a biology quiz. Spent most of his time with his head down or sneaking glances at Isla. Even when he sat beside her, his shoulders were stiff, his eyes unfocused. The teachers noticed. So did the class. But no one said anything out loud. At lunch I was back to eating alone. That was fine. I was finishing a sandwich when someone walked up to my desk and set a small paper carton in front of me. A custard bun. From the bakery I liked. The one I used to drag Ryan to after cram school. I looked up. Noah stood there, one hand in his pocket. Peace offering, he said. No hidden message. Just carbs. I blinked. Why? Because you looked like you were chewing air. I opened the box. The bun was still warm. I didn't smile. Didn't thank him. But I ate it. And he walked away without saying another word. Later that week, during self-study period, a question stumped me. I stared at it for 10 minutes, scribbled possible steps, erased them all, then pushed the paper aside. A folded note appeared on the corner of my desk. I didn't even look up. His handwriting was getting familiar. You forgot to divide by the coefficient in step 2. I glanced behind me. Noah sat a row away, pretending to read. The small things continued. He held the library door open without commenting. Shared correction sheets he'd made for fun. Laughed softly when I snapped a pencil mid-calculation and offered me a mechanical one without a word. He didn't hover. He didn't push. He just existed. Constant. And I hated how comforting it became. On Friday it rained hard. Most students rushed to the bus shelter, huddling under umbrellas or beneath their backpacks. I hadn't brought anything. I stood under the edge of the eaves, arms crossed, trying to decide if I should risk the sprint. Then someone held out a dark navy umbrella beside me. Noah didn't say anything. I stared at him. "You don't have to," I muttered. "I know." He waited. Eventually I stepped under the umbrella. We walked in silence, shoes splashing through puddles, the storm murmuring above us like background music. Halfway home I finally asked, "Why do you keep doing this?" "Doing what?" "Being nice." He shrugged. "I don't think I'm being nice. I think I'm making up for being careless." "Still. Maybe I'm just persistent," he said. "Or maybe I notice that you never look behind you when people walk away." My steps slowed. "You've been left behind too many times," he added, his tone softer now. I looked up at him, really looked. His hair was damp near the ends. His uniform collar slightly wrinkled. But his expression was steady. I didn't reply. When we reached my gate I stepped out from under the umbrella. He handed it to me. "Keep it," he said. "I'll give it back." "Sure." That night I dried the umbrella and placed it near the door. I didn't know what any of this meant yet. But I knew one thing for sure. For the first time in weeks I didn't feel completely alone. It was a Thursday when I noticed Ryan watching me again. Not subtly, not like before where his glances flickered quickly and vanished. This time he stood near the school gate after evening classes, his eyes locked on me as I walked beside Noah. Noah wasn't saying much as usual. His backpack slung lazily over one shoulder, hands tucked into his pockets, gaze forward. I had just returned his umbrella, folded neatly and still damp at the edges, and he hadn't said a word about it. We walked like we always did now. Quiet, measured, peaceful. Until I heard Ryan's voice. "So, you're walking home with him now?" I stopped mid-step. So did Noah. Ryan stepped forward, blocking our path. His expression was sharp, but there was something broken under it. Something he was trying hard not to show. I crossed my arms. "What's that got to do with you?" Ryan laughed, low and bitter. "You're really doing this just to make me jealous?" I blinked. "Jealous?" His voice rose a bit. "Come on, Emily. He's Isla's godbrother." I glanced at Noah. He looked mildly amused, like he couldn't believe he was part of this drama either. Then I looked Ryan straight in the eye. "I'm not interested in making anyone jealous." He scoffed. "You don't have to pretend." "I'm not pretending," I said coolly. "But let's pretend just for fun that you're right. Let's say I was trying to make you jealous. Would it matter?" Ryan's jaw tightened. I stepped closer, my voice dropping. "I'm not trying to take back something that's already been given to someone else. I don't want leftovers, Ryan." That hit. He blinked like I'd just slapped him. "You're being cruel," he said quietly. "No," I replied. "I'm just not stupid anymore." And then I walked right past him. Noah followed without a word. Ryan didn't show up the next morning. When he did arrive, late, hair disheveled, shirt untucked, he didn't look at anyone. He slumped into his seat, scribbled half-hearted notes during lectures, and flinched when the math teacher asked him a direct question. He didn't even look at Isla. I expected her to be panicked, trying to get his attention again. But she stayed oddly quiet, head down, lips pressed into a nervous line. Maybe she was realizing she wasn't as irreplaceable as she thought. Or maybe she'd just found another stage to perform on. I, on the other hand, had never felt more focused. I stopped checking my phone between classes. Stopped listening for his voice. Stopped caring about whatever disaster was happening in their bubble. I had my own bubble now, quiet, steady, and surprisingly warm. Smelled like ink and fresh notebooks. It sounded like the scratch of a mechanical pencil. It walked 3 steps behind me and handed me custard buns without comment. On Monday afternoon I was walking home when Noah spoke up suddenly. "You ever think about finishing that sunrise hike?" I blinked. "What?" "The one you never got to go on," he said. "The cancelled plan." My chest tightened slightly, but I didn't let it show. "Why?" "You said before that youth wasn't priceless. I just thought maybe we could test that theory." I snorted. "You want to go hiking?" "Not want," he clarified. "Need. I've been stuck in exam books for 2 weeks straight. My brain's turning to soup." I hesitated. The last time I'd been asked to hike to a summit, It ended in public embarrassment, abandonment, and a cold hospital bed. He must have sensed the silence stretch. You don't have to say yes, he added. But I think you should go. Even if I don't come with you. I looked at him. What's the catch? No catch. Just sky, dirt, and maybe a thermos of decent tea if I remember to pack it. I didn't answer right away. But when I got home that evening, I found myself digging into the back of my closet again. The gray hiking jacket was still there, wrinkled and used. I held it for a moment, staring at the faint teal stitching. Then I placed it by the door. We met just before dawn on Saturday. Noah showed up 10 minutes early, holding a thermos and 2 granola bars. You packed your regret? He asked. Left it at home, I replied. The trail was steeper than I remembered from the photos Ryan once showed me. But the air was clean, like the first sip of water after days of bitterness. We didn't talk much. But I noticed he slowed his pace whenever I lagged, offered his hand during a tricky incline, and waited silently when I stopped to catch my breath. We reached the summit just as the horizon began to shift. It started with a faint blue glow, then a deep amber bloom. The sky stretched open like a wound healing, soft and slow and quiet. Noah sat on a flat rock and opened the thermos. He poured 2 cups of tea, steam curling up like whispers. I didn't sit right away. I stood near the edge, arms crossed, heart strangely full. This time no one canceled. No one picked someone else. No one took photos for attention or filtered the view to post later. It was just real. Noah handed me the cup. Still think youth isn't priceless? He asked, sipping from his own. I think it's expensive, I said. Costs time, pain, trust, sanity. And maybe, I glanced at the rising sun, some parts are worth it. He smiled. I took a sip of tea. Tasted like jasmine, warm and unexpectedly calming. I let the silence stretch. Eventually I sat beside him. He didn't move. We just watched the sun climb. Birds circled below us. The wind tugged gently at my sleeves. I never made it up here last time, I said quietly. I waited all night thinking maybe I still mattered to him. Noah didn't look at me. And now? I don't know, I said honestly. But I don't feel heavy anymore. He nodded. Want to scream something dramatic? He asked. Like in the movies? I smirked. Already did that in class. Didn't help. He chuckled. I set down the cup and cupped my hands around my mouth anyway. Amy's going to crush the exam. I shouted. My voice rang across the mountaintop. He blinked. Amy. Reflex, I laughed. But you know what I meant. He stood and echoed. Emily's going to crush the exam. We both laughed. The kind that starts in your chest and pushes out all the broken pieces. I didn't say it aloud. But something inside me shifted that day. Not fixed. Not healed. Just lighter. And that was enough. The first thing I noticed after the hike wasn't the soreness in my legs. Though that stayed with me for days. It was how quiet my mind had become. No more what? No more mental reruns of hallway confrontations or Isla's tears or Ryan's hollow apologies. Just focus. Just calm. For the first time in months I had space in my head that belonged only to me. School felt different when I returned on Monday. Not because anything had changed externally. The bell still rang at 8:20, teachers still scribbled equations on boards, and students still whispered about exam rankings like their lives depended on it. But I changed. I stopped looking for Ryan's face in the crowd. I stopped flinching when Isla laughed too loudly. I stopped caring when classmates stared at me like I was some cautionary tale wrapped in silence. I picked up my pen, opened my workbook and started climbing. One mark at a time. At first no one noticed. Then came the first mock exam. I scored 42 points higher than my previous attempt. My name, long absent from the top 10 list, reappeared in 4th place. People blinked. Looked again. Whispered. By the next week I hit 2nd place. By the 3rd I was holding steady at the top. And I didn't feel anxious about it. I didn't feel proud either. Not the way Isla used to when she flaunted her grades with humble brag captions. It just felt steady. Solid. Like I was finally reclaiming something I'd lost without realizing it. Ryan, on the other hand, was crumbling. He stopped raising his hand in class. His hair became more unkempt by the day. He'd show up late, slink into his seat and stare blankly at his textbook like the words were written in a language he no longer understood. The teacher stopped calling on him. The class stopped expecting him to lead. Even Isla, who had once been the epicenter of attention, began to fade. Her cake stopped appearing on desks. Her smiles dulled. She still sat beside Ryan. Still leaned in to whisper during breaks. But he didn't respond. And without his attention, she began to lose her audience. On a rainy Wednesday just after last period, I packed my things slowly while the classroom emptied around me. That's when Ryan approached. I didn't look up. Just zipped my pencil case and slid it into my bag. "Emily," he said. I stood, slinging my backpack over my shoulder. "You shouldn't be here. I miss talking to you." I turned then, meeting his eyes. There was nothing fierce in them now. Just a kind of desperation. The kind that appears when someone finally realizes what they threw away. "You said we were a constant," he added. "Remember?" I did. I remembered every late-night call. Every note passed in class. Every smile at the school gate. But those memories weren't anchors anymore. They were driftwood. And I was done drowning. "You made your choice," I said quietly. "I'm not your backup plan." His expression cracked. "I didn't mean to lose you." I tilted my head. "But you did." He took a step forward. "If we could just go back." I stepped back. "There's no back." And then I walked past him. He didn't follow. Noah was waiting by the school gate like always. He didn't say anything when I walked up beside him. Didn't ask what had happened. He just offered me a lemon candy, my favorite kind, and kept pace beside me as we started the walk home. That became our rhythm. No grand gestures. No sudden declarations. Just quiet consistency. He left flashcards on my desk during morning break. All handwritten, color-coded, and titled with things like Emily's War Against Organic Chemistry. He walked me home in silence when I needed it and told me dumb math jokes when I looked too tired to think. He never brought up Ryan. Never brought up Isla. Never brought up the past at all. He existed only in the present, in the "you're doing great" glances and the "you've got this" scribbles on the edge of my notebook. One afternoon, after a particularly difficult mock test, I found a sticky note on my desk. "You're not allowed to doubt yourself today." Signed, someone with better handwriting and slightly better vision. I laughed out loud, really laughed, before I could stop myself. Kara, my desk mate, turned with wide eyes. "Did you just giggle?" "I did not giggle," I said, but I was still smiling. She leaned in, grinning. "That was a giggle." I shoved the note into my pocket. During the next round of rankings, I placed first. Ryan didn't make the top 50. When the results were posted on the board, no one whispered about me anymore. They just stared, like they finally saw what had been there all along. And they looked at Ryan not with admiration but with sympathy. He looked smaller now. Defeated. Isla stood beside him, expression blank. She didn't congratulate me. Didn't smile. But she didn't cry either. Maybe the performance was finally over. After evening study hall, Noah and I lingered under the awning near the gate. Rain had returned, soft and steady. He glanced at me. "Want to run for it or pretend we're waterproof?" I smirked. "You pretending? I thought you were made of titanium." "Aluminum maybe," he said. "Still dense under pressure." I snorted. "We didn't run. We just walked, slow and soaked." At the corner, he suddenly said, "You're smiling more." I looked at him. "Not at me," he added quickly. "Just, in general." I didn't deny it. "I used to think peace was boring," I said. He waited. "But it's actually kind of beautiful." He nodded. "Told you. Quiet is underrated." When we reached my gate, I turned to him. "Thanks." "For what?" "For not treating me like I'm breakable." He tilted his head like he wanted to say something more. But instead he just offered me another lemon candy. I took it. And for once I didn't feel like anything was missing. 3 months left until the college entrance exam. You could feel it in the air, the way the tension buzzed beneath every fluorescent light. The way even the class clowns started whispering formulas under their breath. The way people stared at their practice scores like their entire future depended on whether they passed or failed a single mock test. Because in some ways, it did. I walked into the exam room for the 3rd mock feeling ready. Not overconfident, just clear. Like my mind had stopped being a battlefield and become a quiet workspace. I took a deep breath as the invigilator handed me the answer sheet. "Focus," I told myself. "Just you and the paper." 3 hours passed in silence. When I walked out, my fingers were ink-stained and my back ached, but I felt calm. Noah was waiting near the vending machine. "How'd it go?" he asked, holding out a grape-flavored juice box. I accepted it without hesitation. "Better than expected." He smiled. "Told you. The hike realigned your brain cells." I gave him a look. "Is that your professional diagnosis?" "Absolutely," he said. "One summit equals 5 IQ points." I laughed, softly, but it was real. 2 days later the results came out. I was first. Not just in our class, in the whole grade. When I saw my name at the top of the board, I didn't feel overwhelmed or shocked. I felt steady. Like the ground under me had finally stopped shifting. Kara came over, clutching her sheet. "Emily, you did it. You crushed it." I nodded. "Thanks." Behind her, I caught a glimpse of Ryan standing alone by the window. He hadn't even cracked the top 50. Later that afternoon, I overheard something in the teacher's lounge while dropping off an assignment. 2 teachers were talking quietly behind the half-open door. She didn't press charges. Thank goodness. Would have been messy for the Bennett girl. Still odd though. I thought her parents would at least make a formal complaint. Apparently someone intervened. Carter spoke to the admin about keeping things under wraps. I froze. Carter. Ryan. So that's what he'd meant in the hospital. The way he said, "I already talked to them," like he was doing me a favor. He hadn't protected me. He'd protected Isla. Even when I was unconscious and bruised, he was controlling the narrative, making sure Isla stayed the golden girl while I stayed silent. My stomach turned. I didn't bring it up right away. I didn't storm over to Ryan. Didn't call him out in front of everyone. Because I didn't need to anymore. Dad, I told Noah. We were sitting on the back steps after cram class, splitting a pack of spicy crackers. He listened quietly as I explained what I'd heard. When I finished, he leaned back and tossed a cracker into his mouth. "You want me to throw a basketball at his head?" he asked, deadpan. I laughed, too loudly, and choked on my water. "No," I said between coughs. "Though the thought is tempting." He tilted his head. "You okay?" "I am," I said, surprising myself. As I was. Not angry. Not broken. Just done. I used to spend all my time reacting to people, I admitted. Like my whole emotional state was a chain reaction triggered by Ryan, Isla, or whoever else decided how I should feel that day. And now. I decide, I said simply. They don't get to rent space in my head anymore. Noah nodded like he'd been waiting to hear that. Then after a pause he held out a small flashcard. "Reward," he said. "Only for emotionally mature people." I flipped it over. Read. "Emily is the queen of clarity. Also, here's the physics formula you keep forgetting." I snorted. "You're annoying." "You're welcome." In the weeks that followed, I built momentum like never before. I studied with focus, laughed when I felt like it, cried sometimes when I didn't, but only in private and only when it passed through like a harmless storm. Noah remained a quiet constant. He didn't try to be the center of my world. He just reminded me that I had one. A world that didn't revolve around betrayal or attention or applause. A world where peace wasn't boring, it was earned. And I was earning it one page at a time. One evening, as we packed up after self-study, he handed me a folded sheet. "New mock set," he said. "Made it myself." "You're such a nerd." "Takes one to walk home with one every day," he shot back. I grinned, tucking it into my bag. Outside, the sky was deep purple, streaked with fading orange. Noah looked at me as we passed the familiar intersection. "Still carrying anything heavy?" he asked. I thought about it. "No," I said honestly. He smiled. "Good," he said. "You walk straighter now." The restaurant our class rented for the end-of-year dinner was loud. Too loud. Laughter bounced off the walls, chopsticks clattered against bowls, and someone had already spilled soda on the seating chart, blurring half the names. But despite the chaos, I felt oddly still. Mock exams were behind us. University entrance applications had been submitted. Our futures were now ticking forward, quietly, surely. The old version of me would have scanned the room for Ryan the moment I walked in. No. I scanned for the empty seat farthest from him. "Emily." Carr waved me over. "Sit here, next to me." Perfect. Ryan was seated 3 tables over, beside Isla. She was dressed in pastel pink, her hair curled slightly, hands fluttering nervously with every movement he made. I could see the tension in her smile, the way she leaned toward him too often, too desperately. But his posture was off. Detached. His eyes kept drifting. And once I caught them land on me. Dinner began with noisy small talk and sizzling platters of food. Classmates clinked glasses of juice, took selfies, and threw around inside jokes like confetti. Teachers sat at the head table, smiling politely while trying to keep the boys from over-ordering fried chicken. I focused on my plate, until I heard someone stand. "Hey," Ryan said, raising his glass, "can I say something real quick?" The laughter faded. All eyes turned to him. He cleared his throat. "I just wanted to say congratulations to all of us. We made it through mock exams. It wasn't easy." A few half-hearted claps echoed. He smiled nervously, then looked straight at me. "And I want to say something else." Oh no. I knew that look. That rehearsed tone. That tragic hero expression. He was about to make a scene. "I owe someone an apology," he continued, voice louder now. "Someone I let down, not once but too many times." The room tensed. My chopsticks stilled. "She was my best friend," he went on. "The person who always believed in me. And I didn't realize what I had until I ruined it." Whispers buzzed across the table. Ryan took a deep breath. "Emily, I'm sorry. For all of it." Now every pair of eyes turned to me. My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. I just felt tired. Then he added softly, "Can we try again?" The silence that followed was deafening. Even Isla had frozen, lips parted, hand midway to her glass. I stood slowly. All eyes watched. Even the teachers stopped mid-bite. I looked at Ryan, really looked. The boy I once knew, all confidence and charm, now stood hollow in front of me. Reaching not for love but for redemption. For attention. And he wasn't going to find it here. I lifted my glass calmly. "Congratulations, everyone," I said, voice clear. "And thank you." Then I turned back to Ryan. "But no," I added, softer now. "The version of me who loved you doesn't exist anymore." Gasps rippled. Someone dropped a fork. Isla stood abruptly, knocking her chair back, and bolted out of the restaurant. Ryan stood frozen, glass still raised, blinking as though he hadn't quite heard me right. I bowed politely to the group, set my napkin down, and left. The air outside was crisp. Quiet. A few students stood nearby, awkwardly pretending not to whisper about what just happened. But I didn't care. Because just across the street, under the amber glow of a flickering streetlight, he stood. Noah. Leaning against the post, hands in his pockets, eyes already on me like he'd been waiting all along. He didn't ask what happened. Didn't smirk or comment or say, "I told you so." He just pushed off the post and walked toward me. "Did you eat enough?" he asked. I shook my head. "No." "Want noodles?" "Yes." He nodded, then held out his hand. I blinked at it. "No speeches," he said. "Just balance." I slipped my hand into his. And for once I didn't feel the weight of everything I'd lost. Only the warmth of what I'd finally found. The results were posted at exactly 7 a.m. Students swarmed the online portal like bees at sunrise, sleep still in their eyes and prayers lingering on their lips. My phone buzzed repeatedly with updates from group chats, but I didn't open any of them. I just stood by the window, the pale morning light warming my fingertips as I typed in my student ID. The screen loaded slowly, deliberately, like it knew this moment needed suspense. And then, Emily Song, rank 7. Admission granted. I didn't scream. Didn't cry. I just exhaled. Like the weight of 3 years, no 5, had finally lifted from my chest. At school, congratulations were flying from every direction. Students huddled in clusters, hugging, laughing, comparing scores. Teachers patted backs. Parents delivered flower bouquets through the front gate. I stood by my locker, retrieving my textbooks one last time. That's when I saw it. A folded sheet of paper tucked into the side, handwritten and unsealed. No name, but I recognized the writing immediately. Ryan's. I didn't hesitate. I opened it slowly. "Emily, I know you don't owe me anything. Not a reply, not a glance, not even the time it takes to read this. But I wanted to write anyway. You were always the one I thought would never leave. I tested that too many times. I was wrong. And now I know what I cost myself. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted to say, You were right to walk away, Ryan. I stared at it for a long time. No apologies. No excuses. No drama. Just words. Simple. Hollow. Like everything between us had boiled down to a few short lines of regret. I folded the letter, turned and walked over to the recycling bin. And dropped it in without looking back. Outside, Noah was leaning against the courtyard wall, 2 iced matcha lattes in hand. He offered one when I approached. You don't even like matcha, I said, smiling. Doesn't stop me from buying it for you, he replied. We walked together down the school steps, side by side as we always did now. The air smelled like freshly cut grass and quiet endings. There was a small park 5 blocks away, the one with the crooked benches and wildflower patches that nobody maintained. We sat there in our uniforms for the last time, sipping quietly under the shade of a jacaranda tree. I watched a pair of birds hop between the branches above us. Did you get what you wanted? Noah asked eventually. I thought about it. No, I said. Not at first. I glanced at him. But maybe I got what I needed. He nodded. We sat in silence for a while. Then I spoke again, voice quieter this time. I loved him, you know. Ryan. I know. Even when he started slipping away from me, I said, I still believed he'd find his way back. Noah didn't interrupt. And when he didn't, I continued, I thought it meant I wasn't enough. You were always enough, he said softly. He just didn't know what to do with someone like you. I swallowed. Do you think that version of me, the one who waited, who forgave, who begged, do you think she was weak? No, he said instantly. I think she was strong for surviving what she did. And stronger still for not becoming bitter. That made my throat tighten. You stayed, I whispered. I never promised I would, he replied. But I stayed anyway. The sun dipped lower, painting gold across the field. Children squealed on the playground in the distance, their joy unburdened by exams or love or regret. I looked down at the grass between my sneakers. I used to think youth was everything, I said. That it was supposed to be magical. That if I didn't fall in love or get my heart broken or live like a movie, I was wasting it. I turned to him. But youth cost me things I didn't even realize I was giving away. He looked back, not flinching. My voice. My self-worth. My peace. And now, he asked. I think I finally paid in full, I said, exhaling. And what did you get in return? I didn't answer right away. Instead, I reached into my bag, pulled out a pen, and on the back of my mock exam paper, I wrote 2 words in clean, bold strokes. Myself back. Noah read it, smiled. Then took out his own pen and scribbled something underneath. I looked. Me too. I blinked. Laughed softly. Then leaned back on the bench, eyes to the sky, heart finally quiet. I didn't walk away from youth with fireworks or grand victories. I didn't get the boy I thought I'd marry, or the love story I imagined at 16. But I walked away whole. And for the first time in years I knew who I was. That was enough. That was everything. The end.